A very good afternoon to all present. Thank you for taking the time off your busy schedule to attend this very important dialogue and very important conversation. It is with those words I offer a very warm welcome to our staff, our students, and to our presenters who have taken time off their valuable work to join the UKZN family on this webinar. Also, I must place on record our appreciation to the HIV and AIDS program from the Student Services Division for bringing up the sterling title and for placing on record the importance of us knowing our strength. So this webinar is called Zazi, and it's about knowing your inner strength. It's about your boldness, be strong, your kindness. It's about how we take forward our courage and our resilience in ways, especially in the rise of our lockdown and COVID-19. How we make well-adjusted and well-informed and focused decisions. As you all know, we all have reserves. We all have our own inner strength. We all have powerful characteristics to lead ourselves and others to make highly informed discussion. So today, dear audience, we have three lovely ladies with us who will actually provide much more insight on how we can derive at our inner strength, or how in the face of adversity, trauma, death, and dying, we can pull on our inner strength to make well-informed decisions. With that in mind, I want to take this opportunity of introducing our first presenter, who is none other than Ms. Stella Zulu. Now, Ms. Stella Zulu has a sterling employment record, and her experience in the field of HIV and AIDS is something that we need to mention. In addition, she has worked with children in the children and in distress field. She has also experiences in the way people can access their grants. And then she also has a vast number of years of experience with HIV prevention for orphaned and vulnerable children. I don't want to say much more. I don't want to steal the thunder, but with that in mind, I want to ask Ms. Stella Zulu to now offer us her presentation, and which will actually be focusing on barriers and recommendation for condom usage. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand you over to Stella Zulu. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, students, and also the staff of UKZN. I'm glad to say I'm actually an ex-UKZN student, so this is, in a way, coming home. I do work in the field of HIV, and a lot of our time is spent in the prevention space. So trying to assist children to have strategies to prevent themselves or reduce the risk of contracting HIV, and therefore sort of guaranteeing their futures. So today what we're looking at is the reasons why we have a low uptake in condom use that we see currently, especially in the years that the recent years. I do need to say from the beginning that the only safe sex really is not having sex at all, and or abstaining. But we know from the work that we do that is a nice ideal, but it's not what would normally happen. So what then do? We have to figure out a way to support our growing young people to make sure that they have a shot at a very good future. If we can prevent something, if we can prevent them from contracting HIV, but also unplanned pregnancies. We understand that they have a right when they are ready to have children, but the children and HIV both are very permanent at the moment, and they could sort of change the trajectory of the lives that the young people would have planned for themselves. So in the work that we're doing, what we are seeing is that the actual decision for a young person to begin to have sex, their sexual debut, that's not necessarily a decision that they make all the time being informed. In majority, young people make that decision because of circumstances around them. You get people who they begin to have sex because they think it's an expression of love for the boyfriend. And we know how that ends up because we are at the age we're at. Your first boyfriend long disappeared, and you've already forgotten who he was, let alone the love you thought you felt for him. The young people who are cohabiting because of reasons, those people don't have control over how their sexual lives play out. Half the time, the decision is about making sure that I keep this roof over my head. Also, people who see themselves in long-term relationships, they feel, okay, I found the right person. I can now let my guard off and be with this person and do what normally happens in married relationships, because you don't have to get married if you don't want to. So people quickly get to that stage of thinking, oh, this is it. This is long term. We can now let our guard down. Now, we live in KZN. It's in a way legal to have more than one, because we as Zulus, we allow polygamy. So how safe is that one for you? It's a decision that you don't always think about. female who have legal schooling or don't see a prospect of getting an education, because education for many of us means a different future, means opening doors, a prosperity in future at some point. So if you feel like life doesn't offer you much, then you would make that decision to keep the relationship. And also some women who are unemployed, especially, you don't have a say over how your sexual life plays out. And also we see it also with young people who feel, to keep this guy, I've got to be sexually, what's the word, not promiscuous, but sexually able. So be able to show what I can make happen compared to the next girl that maybe is in line for this relationship. And also not having HIV awareness in its truth, in the fact that it is here, it's with us for as long as we know, and for a future that we know, and until that changes, it remains a risk that could change your life. So we also see it a simple decision, like if you stop for a condom, you interrupt the flow, like keeping that moment going. It makes no sense when you're sitting on your desk and thinking about it, but in the heat of the moment, that's a decision that our young people are making. And this goes both for boys and girls, because you both should have a say in what happens in this relationship. So what we're seeing is also the developments that we have seen in the HIV space, which are positive. They're also having an effect on condom use. The fact that you have now access to contraceptives, you have units in clinics that provide focus on young people being able to access quickly and still go back to school or go on with your life in your day. That's a good thing. It means you will not get pregnant, you will not have a child unless you planned it. But what we see happening is that because that's covered, young people are dropping the condom, not realizing that that's actually not a good idea, because you are still exposed to STIs. And if you get an STIs, there are long-term effects in your life. But I suppose when you are young, you're not thinking about having children. You're not thinking about diseases that can come down the line. It's the fact that I am here, I'm able to not get pregnant and still have my fun. And also, it makes no sense, but the perceived loss of pleasure if they're using a condom. And I'm saying perceived because it comes from not being educated about the actual condom and how you use it and what it does for you, which is protection, yes, but also it doesn't take away that pleasure. Right? And the fact that with our contraceptives, they're long acting. You have your IUDs, you know, you don't have to go to the clinic all the time. You go once, it gets fixed for a long period of time, and therefore you can have fun, right? So if pregnancy is the main thing, then I can continue having fun. This is what we are learning from the young people that we work with. The advancements in HIV treatment, which is a good thing, because what we're trying to make sure is a person can be positive, still be able to keep their job, have their life, have their education, and we're getting a level of that. If they're staying on treatment and they're compliant to how treatment gets taken, you don't get people getting sick. And now young people are not seeing what a person my age saw growing up. In the 90s, you saw people who were sick, so you were scared of getting to that stage. Now they're not seeing that. They're seeing people who are functional because we have less chances of morbidity. But the truth is that it's with us, right? And that commitment that you must make to stay on that treatment for you to then feel like you will be safe. There is less fear. There's less fear of HIV than we had when we were young. What also helps us is the existence of PrEP. Now, PrEP is another way to prevent HIV. You have to take medication, take it all the time as prescribed. And if you do, it builds enough protection in your body for you to not get sick. But it's an expensive process for us at the moment. As a country, we are promoting it, but it's promoted through a lot of clinics are trying to do it, but I can't tell you how many times we have run out of stock. And then because we work in programs that are funded by other donors, then you have to bring in the stock to make sure that the girls have or the young men have. And we also have situations where they start and then they stop because but they're not thinking about the fact that I've stopped and the protection levels have dropped. And so you need to start using the condom. So it's all these things that are supposedly, they're positive, and they are, but the thinking and the viewing of these developments by young people are making them have a false sense of safety, right? The other thing is also inaccurate and not correct sexual education. It's sexual education that focuses only on vaginal sex, leaves out other forms, leaves out also other forms of grouping. It looks at heterosexual sexual process. It doesn't look at what happens with other forms of sexuality. And so you have condoms being promoted for that heterosexual vaginal relationship, but the other groups don't have, you have options, but it's not promoted so that people are aware that it's there for them to use. And the fact that also we're not teaching young people in families, we're not teaching young people in spaces where they are gathered, because you don't want to promote the knowledge of sex. So what ends up happening is they learn from other sources, they learn from each other, they learn from porn, because they have access to everything that gives them windows to everything. The unfortunate problem is that porn does not promote protection. That's not what it is about. And so when the kids become aware of sex and how it works, condom is not a central part of that space. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a few slides just to give you the context in which in KZN we are working. I'm working with our program in Herigwala. A large part of what we do is in eThekwini and Umgungundlovu. And I just want to show you the numbers of children that have HIV that we work with. And you can imagine children come from families. And those families are also families that we enroll into the program. And we enroll these families with the purpose of protecting them, right? And ensuring that they understand. Can you see the slides? Hello?
No, they're no slides.
Not showing. Okay, hold
No.
on. Okay. Now?
Yes, it's coming.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
Yeah, thank
okay.
you.
So I just want to show this slide here. If you look at this is a cascade of the numbers of kids that are on treatment for HIV at the moment, and the cascade of the work that we do with them in terms of trying to protect them from HIV. If you look at the red one, that's 21,085 HIV positive young people under the age of 18. These come from just 3 districts. They come from eThekwini, Umgungundlovu, and Herigwala, and we're not covering the whole district. So these are the young people living with HIV. Fortunately, all of them are on ART, and all of them, a big number of them, 83% of them know their viral load, which means they know the count of the virus in their bodies. Now, this is the young people that are in the district where you are schooling, where you are working. Kids come from families. Now, this is the smallest number of our HIV treatment, because remember that children make up a smaller number of our sort of full cohorts of people that are on treatment. So can you really afford to not be utilizing condoms if this is the kind of background that you are in, that you are sort of schooling in? The good news is that people your age, if they contract HIV, you find that when they're younger, it's difficult. There's a lot of management process that we have to go through with them. But what you're finding is that when they hit 20 and above, their compliance becomes even better. I think at that age, they know what they want. They're focusing on their future. So if it means taking that tablet every day to stay alive, that is what they do. But the reason I'm showing you these numbers is to say to young people in UKZN, you are in the 2 districts that have the highest burden for TB and HIV. You cannot afford to make these casual decisions around your life, because that is what it is. It's a casual decision around something that will be permanent in your life and will be a high maintenance, both the HIV and the baby. They're very high maintenance. In the end, they just determine what happens with your life on a daily basis. So it's not a risk that young people should be taking. It's not a risk that young people should be trying to risk, because it is that, it's true. It's the truth of your life is that you kind of have to keep yourself safe. So I'll stop sharing now, and I will stop there and wait for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zulu, for that rich and robust presentation. You have managed to cover so many aspects relating to factors that promotes risky behavior, poor decision-making, especially in the heat of the moment, you know, the reasons why condom usage is not being attended to, and its relevance to the loss of pleasure, the myths revolving around condom usage, and you know, also the issue of the value of commitment towards treatment. So those are things that we need to ponder on. But what we have done, what the webinar is doing, that at the end of the presentations, we do have a question and answer session, and you know, we are actually wanting to encourage very active, rich, deep, and robust participation. So, you know, there will be questions at the end after the third speaker completes her presentation. But once again, thank you so much, and it was really a very rich presentation. Without much more minutes to go, I want to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Njiwe Manana. She's a young lady with the, she's from the public health communication field, and she's based at the UKZN Howard College. She's a hardworking individual, she's dedicated, and she's very diligent, and she's very, very passionate about working with young people, and takes the opportunities to facilitate workshops that creates safe spaces for youth to come together and speak about issues or challenges or their complexities in these safe spaces. So, you know, that is a lovely concept, and I'm sure it's bringing much progress, much development, and much positive stances amongst the youth. With that in mind, I now take this opportunity to ask Ms. Njiwe Manana to offer us her presentation. Thank you so much.
Greetings and thank you, Chair. Greetings, ladies and students, and thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this beautiful event, promoting Zazi, encouraging us to unleash our potential, encouraging us to know ourselves, encouraging us to unlock our strength, power, self-confidence, knowledge, and also to know what we stand for, and most importantly, as women, to support each other, because that is what is lacking. My Ms. Zulu has made my presentation much easier because she touched in all issues around HIV, and she also reminded us that HIV is still existing. We have reduced our guards around HIV because of other social ills, COVID-19, and we forgot that HIV still exists, and we still are liable to ensure that we protect ourselves. So I'm going to talk about prevention strategies of HIV, but I would like to also emphasize that for us to ensure that we reduce or eliminate chances of HIV, we also need to know our health and promote healthy behaviors all around. We need to ensure that we reduce the number of new HIV infections, and we also ensure that we also deal with issues of sexual and gender-based violence, which is another issue that is affecting us, and it is crucial to also not leave it outside or when we talk about health and HIV issues. It's very also important to also know our overall health status as women. It's a Women's Month, so it's very important to know about our HIV status. It's also important to go for pap smears and know and find out early if there are chances of cancers. Do pap smear, also check our BPs. The ball has changed because these social ills that I'm talking about were previously linked to older peers, but now we've seen it changing to even younger or youth because of lots of contributing factors, including our diets and the lifestyle. We also need to know our sugar levels so that if there are chances of diabetes, we are able to manage that. And also we need to screen for other issues like TB, because some of these are silent killers. So if we don't manage those, or if we don't take care of our overall health status, we find out late in life, and it's difficult to manage those or to eliminate them from our system. So, and also screen for STIs. Those are dangerous silent killers as well, which we need to know of, which we need to know early, especially if we are sexually active, to ensure that we protect ourselves. And also we need to understand our rights and responsibilities, which will therefore allow us to make informed decisions, as Dr. Subrayan has alluded first, that we need at the end of the day to make informed decisions to ensure that our overall health status is up to date and we are able to treat and manage. We also need to decide if and when we want to have sex. I know that ideally we are saying, let's abstain, like Sis Stella Zulu has alluded to, but it's difficult because there are also other factors that promote or contribute to our sexual lifestyles. So we also need to know when, make decisions, and also when and what we want from it. We also need to be able to choose contraceptive methods that work best for us. So therefore, that will mean I need to know myself, I need to know my body to be able to ensure that whatever contraceptive that I'm taking works best for me. And we also need to be able to talk to our partners about what we like in this relationship and what we don't like in this relationship. So we need to ensure that we open channels of communication, and we also listen attentively, not listen to respond. And that will allow them to have a fruitful conversation in this relationship. And we also need to abstain not just from sex, from also other contributing factors like drugs, like alcohol, because once you are under the influence, you therefore unable to make informative decisions. So we need to ensure that you are in control of that. For you to be in control of that, you need to know who you are. You need to zazi. You need to also know your strengths so that you use those strengths to ensure that you reduce or you eliminate those risky behaviors. And also, we cannot leave the issue of, we call it CCU in the public health communication space. CCU meaning you need to know how to use your condoms, correctly. You need to know how to use your condoms consistently, because any chance, any mishap, you can be then exposed to chances of getting STIs or HIV, because it's also part of STIs. So we call it CCC, correct and consistent condom usage. Not just when you're having sex. Therefore, you need to know yourself, need to know your body, so that you are unable to know what do you like when, as a person, when it comes to the sex space, so that you will ensure that you pre the actual activity, you create a space where safety will take place. You will know what you want when you do foreplay, because there's pre-condom usage and there's post-condom usage. And these also can open opportunities for you to be exposed to STIs and HIV if you don't take care of them, because you can know that you need to use a condom consistently, only find that you think you're using it correctly, but you didn't take care of the pre and post part of condom usage. So you need to know what you want when you're doing foreplays before the actual penetration. You need to know what you need to use in order to ensure protection pre the actual penetration or pre putting on the condom. There are dental demos if you like what you like. There are finger condoms if you like what you like. So that takes you to know who you are and what you want and what you like in order to have sexual gratification. And also post-condom usage, you also ensure that you need to ensure that there's also protection after you take out the condom. How do you take it out? Are there chances of you being exposed to body fluids from your partner? And how do you dispose that so that prevent other people from accessing or from getting into contact with those body fluids that come with that used condom, or those used finger condom, or those used dental demos. So the pre and post is also very important when we talk about the correct and consistent condom usage. So therefore, that means you are not going to justify why you're not using a condom with this partner, you're only using a condom with that partner, because HIV and STIs don't discriminate, and they don't even care where you had it before or where is it going now. So ensure that consistently there is protection all the time. And we also need to also reduce the number of sexual partners, which we call multiple and concurrent partnerships, because those are also increasing chances of STIs and chances of HIV. Then there's also the element of sexual networks in this ratio, because that means if your partner is having 3 boyfriends or girlfriends, indirectly you are sleeping with them, because whatever each partner is bringing into the sexual relationship with your partner or with you is also going to affect the other person that you're having a sexual relationship with. So we also need to ensure that under prevention, we are able to eliminate or reduce if we are unable to eliminate, but ideally it's better if we eliminate and rely on one partner. But even with that partner, ensure that you protect yourself all the time by ensuring that you avoid body fluids touching body fluids directly. And we also encourage in the Zazi campaign that we would love to eliminate intergenerational relationship where there is transaction, because once you are in that relationship, you are also limited to negotiate for correct and consistent condom usage, unless your partner is also believing in that or is practicing that. Otherwise, if your partner is not into that, because there's transaction, you are unable, therefore, to negotiate for safe sex. And also be careful of who you invite into your own sexual space or into your own sexual lives, because there are spiritual partners and also indirect sexual contact. And you also need to screen for STIs. Like I said before, that when we talk about HIV, we can't leave STI because HIV is part of. There are other STIs which are also difficult to treat, or which you only need to manage. So you need to screen so that you start taking care of those. We also need to go for pap smear so that we will know once we're sexually active, so that we will know if there are chances of cyst, fibroids, and other cancers of the womb. We also need to ensure that we do breast examination, especially since it's Women's Month. In other institutions, it's also free to go for those, since they are promoting it, and it's also good for our health. And we also need to be informed by PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis. Therefore, that will take knowing who you are, knowing your sexual behavior, so that you will know also if you are at risk, and then ensure that you get into the program, like Sister Stella Zulu has talked about. It said that we are still struggling to manage the adherence around PrEP. So we also need to remind ourselves that for PrEP to be most effective, we are still expected to adhere to it. So we follow the guidelines of being in that program. And we also need to know about PEP, not PEP stop, post-exposure prophylaxis. When do you need to get into it or get into the program? You need to also follow those guidelines. It's before 72 hours, but ideally it's better if you've been exposed to go there earlier. So therefore, they will be able, you get into the program, and then you are able to eliminate or reduce the chances of you getting STIs and HIV. And ensure all the time that there's no direct contact with another body fluid. I can't emphasize this because once you touch, you don't know what that body fluid is carrying. You don't even know whether the partner or the person is aware of the health status. So you ensure that you are selfish with your own self and your own body. And it's very, very, very important to know your body, celebrate your body, and also check your body, because body is the map to your health. We also need to, when we talk about correct and consistent condom use, know that doubling up, or what we call dual protection, is a must, because it's only condoms that are able to protect ourselves from HIV as well as pregnancy. But what we've established is that most young women, when they are on contraceptive, they take light, or they lose focus on condom usage. And by doing so, they are now at high risk of getting STIs, of getting HIV, and their only concern is pregnancy, yet they are exposed. So it's very important to double up. When you're on contraceptives, ensure that you still adhere to correct and consistent condom usage. Therefore, your chances of protection will be high if you do so. And also know the forms of contraceptives that you need to take, so that you ensure that you adhere to AMA guidelines. And if there are chances of side effects, you are able to also go back to the clinic, go back to the institution, and explain what is happening, so that you will be assisted in getting the right contraceptive that are good for your body. There are different types that you will need to ensure that you know more about, so that you are able to understand their role in your sexual health or in your sexual behavior. I am going to also not leave the part where, when we talk about prevention, we also need to ensure that we are in control of our lives, not just our sexual life, of our lives in general, by avoiding stress, by exercising regularly, by practicing breathing exercises, because you breathe in oxygen, you take out carbon monoxide, you eat healthy, you focus on good things, you do positive pep talks, you do positive affirmation, and you drink water. Ensure that you divide your weight by 10 classes, and then you are able to live healthy optimally. Thank you very much. Know yourself, boost your confidence, find spaces to ensure that whoever that you are in your space is, you are able to lift each other's self-esteem, because the Zazi campaign also established that women, especially young women, have got low self-esteem, which also is a barrier for them to ensure that they adhere to prevention strategies. If you can allow me, Chair, I would like to read a poem by Tasha, which I think will sum up all about the Zazi campaign. It says, I was afraid of being rejected until I learned to never reject myself. I was afraid of being abandoned until I learned to never abandon myself. I was afraid of the opinion of others until I learned that they held no more weight than my own. I was afraid of painful endings until I realized that they were also new beginnings. I was afraid of appearing weak until I realized how strong I truly was. I was afraid of being seen as small and unimportant until I discovered my true power and potential. I was afraid of being perceived as ugly until I learned to fully appreciate my own beauty. I was afraid of failure until I learned that it was an illusion when viewed through the eyes of love, growth, and learning. I was afraid of feeling low until I learned that it was a place of brilliance, and where my great transformation occurred. I was afraid of change until I realized it was an inevitable part of life in a world full of things of temporary and fleeting. I was afraid of being alone until I learned to fully embrace and appreciate my own company. I was afraid of my uniqueness until I learned that it was where my greatness lay. I was afraid of the darkness until I remembered that I was the light. And I was afraid of life until I remembered who I was. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Tenjiwe Manana, for your insightful presentation. And I'm sure, I'm absolutely confident that the audience actually picked up a few good pointers that they can take home with them. For me, I think especially the fact that, you know, to stay informed and to make correct decisions, and the way it impacts positively on the reduction of gender-based violence. You know, so that's a very important concept that we need to take forward if we are absolutely serious on the reduction of instances of gender-based violence. I think also what came through very clearly is the notion of agency, where people have the right to choose the contraceptive methods that they wish to. You know, so even in the space of condom usage or methods of contraceptives, you know, people can make choices. And it is there that informed choices can be made. As you rightfully put it, you know, you can make the choice to choose a contraceptive that is good for your body. So, you know, Nobody's human rights is being violated in this instance, but rather we are promoting the issue or the notion of agency, where, you know, your rights and your responsibilities is given much attention. You know, thank you for that. And I think the biggest message that you sent home, and I'm so confident about that, is the way you said that, you know, we need to be in control, and being in control is about the way we start extracting and pulling our inner resources to allow us to be in control. And, you know, especially in terms of regular exercising, eating healthy, the concept of positive affirmations and always being in a positive a mind frame, and you know, regular breathing exercises. So these are good intervention strategies that we all need to take home. I know certainly as a practitioner at the university, you know, I will be taking this back home for further discussion with students, family, and friends. Now, you know, I want to introduce you to our last speaker, Ms. Tabila Ndlovu. She is a Bachelor of Social Science graduate from our very own University of KwaZulu-Natal. And she actually practiced or served as a peer educator from 2016 to 2019. So, you know, that space actually shows us the richness of your lived experience in the peer educator domain. And it was that time she became a peer mentor. So from 2019 right up until this very moment, she's a peer mentor. She's currently pursuing a Master's of Theology in Gender, Religion, and Health. And today, she will share with us her experiences and her knowledge on peer-to-peer mentorship support. Thank you so much. And Tabile Ndlovu, I hand you over, and looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Is it me, or we all can hear the speaker?
Yes, I think Ms. Tabila seems to have a problem with the sound. I think, Rosh, in the meantime, while we give her some time to sort the sound, you could take over. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, maybe what I can do is that there's been a comment on the chat, you know, and this is directed at Tinji's, you know, about the safe spaces and how within these safe spaces we can actually promote confidence in individuals, and that promotion of confidence and boosting of self-esteem can actually create comfortable spaces for personal growth and development and accountability for the way in which we need to look informed decisions, be courageous, be resilient, learning to say no, learning to understand the realities about, non-condom usage and, contraceptives. So thank you so much for that. And while we note that Tabile is having a problem with their sound, and so therefore we are stepping in to fill in that gap and create other discussions, around this webinar. So, if I go back to Ms. Stella Zulu's presentation, you did mention, Ms. Stella Zulu, that PrEP is very expensive, and so it's not easily accessible all the time. I'm actually wondering, if you could tell us, why is it so expensive?
It's not a question I can answer in fully confident, because I'm not a medical, I don't have a medical background, so I'm not sure. But currently, a lot of work is going towards promoting it. While we're promoting it, what we are also finding is that we need the clinics, because the clinics are where you get everything from government, which means the chance of getting that service, even when us NGOs have pulled out of that space, are guaranteed, right? So we need the clinics to be able to provide this. And you do have clinics that are trying to do that. But what you're finding is that it's not every clinic. For an example, we don't have easy access to PrEP in a district like Herigwala. You do have kids there that would want to use it. We're trying to promote a little bit of access to it, but you know that you don't have a huge number. So you find it easier in the districts that are funded by USAID for a DREAMS program, because part of the package is that. Also, the areas where you have a sort of a bigger number of sex workers in that area, you also find easier access to PrEP, but it's not everywhere. Ideally, it should be everywhere. The other difficulty is that for a person to start, it's not like a quick visit to the clinic. It's a visit that has a little bit more time than your normal one, because there's tests that needs to happen. You have to not be pregnant. Ideally, you have to not be positive, ideally. So all those things have to be tested for before you can start. And then once we have answers to that, you get put on treatment, and then you have to be supported to make sure that it works well with you. You don't have any adverse responses. And then also you must have someone that will be able to support you, like someone that you can phone and say, oh, I'm feeling queasy. Is this normal? Those kinds of things. So all that is human factor, people that need to be employed and paid to do that. But we would really like to see a time when it's easily accessible, because it is effective. What we don't want to happen is that young people tend to think it's either that or the condom. It shouldn't be. It should be both, because the STIs still need you to protect yourself. And if you get those, you may have issues long-term in your life, and then you have problems with your future. And because we know that at the moment, young people are not thinking about if it's going to affect your fertility. That's not what they're worried about. They're even happy that that can happen because, okay, I'm young, I'm not going to have a child. But come to an age where you start needing to have a family, those things will become front and center. So we want young people to make decisions now that protect who they are and what they're able to do in the future. So it is expensive, because we don't have it everywhere. Our government is working hard to promote the use, also promote clinics that are able to utilize it, but there's all those expenses involved. And we would want to see more use of it. We would want to see more ease of access. So currently we easily access it in the 2 districts that have high burden of HIV. And that's also because there's more partners working in these districts that bring resources that are funded by other donors. But it would be good to get it everywhere.
Well, thank you so much for that in-depth and comprehensive response. I think it brings clarity on that the issue of PrEP. But also, I'm just thinking, whilst we still have you there, Stella Zulu, is that you also mentioned that we're not promoting education and awareness amongst young people in their families, or possibly these young peoples in their peer groups. You know, I think it's also important to understand why we're not promoting this, and how could all of us here today take on that responsibility or that ethic of care to promote this kind of education and awareness amongst our young people in their families and in peer groups or other groups in the community.
If you think about yourself when you were growing up, and myself when I was growing up, the last subject that would have come from my parents and would have come from possibly my grandparent is sex and sexuality. And it has to do with the fact that when we were growing up, it may not have been a problem that it is currently. So we kind of have to push through the fear and the pain of accepting as a parent that my legal person is now a full-on adult who makes these kinds of decisions. So it's pushing through that. So for your little cousin, your sister's child, your own little sisters, that's something you know is coming. You know you're going to find it difficult to open or broach that subject with them. Accept that. Push through it, and then begin to have a conversation, because if you don't, that space is left open for something or somebody else, and somebody will fill in that space. And unfortunately, it's not always going to be someone that means well for your child, that means well for your cousin or your sibling. So it's something we have to know that is difficult, know that it wasn't done for us, know that the difficulties they had, you will have those same difficulties, but you know the value of pushing through and making sure that you have that conversation, because it's not always going to be the parent. It could be you as an auntie, especially the young people that are at varsity. You are young, therefore you're seen as hip by your cousins and your sisters, and they are likely to listen to what you say because what you say is current. What I say to my 15-year-old is old. What the very same thing that my daughter who's 24 says to my 15-year-old is acceptable. For whatever reason, my information is not hip because it comes from me, but the same information coming from somebody younger, closer to them in age, is acceptable. So understand that you have that opportunity and you have that value as a young person who's at varsity. Already that's a win. You are seen as somebody that is achieving, that is serious about life, that they want to emulate. So our responsibility then is to see that, understand that, and then exploit it positively. Thanks, Roshni.
Thank you, Stella, for that rich response. It does make a clear understanding of that issue. About family relationships and also transference of a message around this issue, which is so sensitive. And really, sometimes some families are not ready to even embrace the issue of HIV, So yeah, thank you so much for that. I just want to move to Tenjiwe, and I know you did mention the issue of, the reluctance to go for pap smears. What is the complexity there? Why so much of reluctance to actually go and seek that kind of medical support?
Thanks, Doc. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to fully answer you in this question, but from where I stand, I think when it's matters of sexual health, we tend to have a challenge ourselves. We tend to pull back ourselves. Therefore, that also then limits opportunities for us to go for such initiatives that are going to assist us. Like Sister Zulu said, that issues of sexual sex are a bit of a challenge in us as a nation. So therefore, we therefore create a barrier ourselves in ensuring that we get to such services that will assist us. And also, I was in another workshop where we talked a lot and unpacking a lot around this. And young women themselves, they were like, how is it done? I don't see myself going to a gynae and opening myself vulnerable so to someone to look at my VJ, and that also make it a barrier for that person to go for these services that are going to assist that person, that disempowers that person herself for her to be able to get screened. And the sad part is that, and once you pull back instead of accessing these services, because sometimes these services are free, especially in this in the Women's Month or in other campaigns or events, but we've got self-discriminations around that. We don't want to expose ourselves. We don't want someone to see my VJ, and we don't someone to know me, because we are afraid of being vulnerable and lose control of our bodies. But yet when it comes to sex, we are so welcoming and ready for. So that creates a barrier on its own. It's self-discrimination. It's also not being comfortable to access these services. That creates a challenge or a barrier in young women accessing these services. So that's my take on that point. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. It's absolutely understandable, you know, issues of discrimination and not feeling safe to, you know, expose your body. What if my friend sees me going for that? Will I still be accepted in the community? Or would it be an issue of being excluded in the community? So there are all these other exclusionary factors that one has to think about that can actually prevent a person from seeking that treatment. Thank you for that. You know, it does shed light on that. But just lastly,
can you allow me to interject also? There's lack of information around these services. We don't talk about them. When we talk about HIV, we always focus on abstinence, we always focus on condom usage, and we forget to talk about these things, because it's about knowing your body, knowing yourself, being in control. Then we limit information for our young women. By therefore limiting information, we are not empowering them to be able to make informed decisions. So I'm happy that in this event, we are able to talk freely about this. And I'm happy that you're continuing with the Zazi campaigns, because they are safe space for young women to sit together and talk about these sensitive and not easy to talk about issues in and indirect, empowering each other. Thank you for that.
oh yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned issues of vulnerability, issues relevant to disempowerment, emancipation, self-representation. And I can see, what you meant by when you said that, it's very difficult to actually find or actually teach couples about enhancing or widening or creating spaces for open channels of communication. Perhaps people in those situations feel vulnerable and feel disempowered and don't know how to talk about something as important as this. or as sensitive as this is. So I can see how it, you know, the issue of being disempowered can actually close up communication channels. Thank you so much for that. I've just been on the chat and I see that we have something, one of the, a person from the audience actually sent through a text and asked if there's any information on the interaction between ARVs and psychiatric medication. I'm not sure if Stella or Tinjiwe would like to answer that, or do we have a way forward on that?
It's not something I can answer because it sounds like a medical question, but we can find out and send an email. If you can just send me an email question, we can ask. You know, but I really wouldn't know.
Okay, no, thank you for
I am
that.
also in the same space with Sister Stella. That is a deep question that will need more research on it to be able to respond to. And then Sister Azulu for or volunteering to take care of that.
Okay, thank you so much. Another person actually you know, text that, you know, would you all have any thoughts of the U equal U campaign? Is this a controversial issue, or can there be any advice on this? I must admit myself that I don't have any knowledge on this, and, you know, your response would be a learning curve for me as well. Thank you.
I don't think it's controversial. I don't see how it could be controversial, because the idea of taking treatment is that you take treatment to reduce the number of, you know, your viral load. So the number of copies of the virus in your system, because the lower they are, the healthier you become. And if they go down to a point where they're undetectable, chances of transmitting that to someone else or your sexual partner are reduced. I think if you love someone, you would want to protect them. So you would want to make sure that you are not a weapon for this person that you say you love. You would want to be the person that promotes health also for them. So I don't see why it would be controversial. It is something that we are promoting with the 20,000 plus kids that we are looking after. The idea is that they should know their number, meaning know the number of viral loads that you have, so that you and the people supporting you have this goal towards reducing it to below 50. So every time you go to the clinic, one of the things that would happen after a period of time is you would get the test for the viral load, and your reading becomes then your next sort of target that you are working towards. I think it's for me, I think it's a good thing, because we currently, on that slide that I shared, we have quite a high number. I think it's about 93% of the kids that we are looking after who are on undetectable, and some of them are under suppression, but we will report that as one. It's a good thing. It means you have a chance at life. It means the people that you love, you have a chance at life. If you decide that you're not going to use a condom, which is not a good idea, but if that's your decision, because people have rights, at least your decision shouldn't affect that person negatively. So I don't see how it would be a bad thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, you know, for answering that. So basically what you're saying is that, you know, we can promote advice on it. That's the take-home message that I get from that. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm just thinking that, you know, whilst we are waiting for Tabile and Lobo, I've picked up from both the presentation some interventions or some strategies that we could use to actually build in or feed into this issue of inner strength. And number one is that we need to reduce the myths around condom usage. So in view of that, we need to promote education and awareness on the issue of condom usage. Secondly, what came to the surface very often is that we must make informed decisions. Emerging from our level of confidence and our level of self-esteem, our positive behavior, all those help us, and it supports us to make informed decisions around this issue here. Even when it comes to pap smears, I think what we picked up is that there is not many people would actually go for the pap smears. Because of the stigma and issues of discrimination and labeling and judgmental attitudes, towards the issue of going for pap smears. So as a society or as practitioners or as people in the community, we have a responsibility to help people to reduce the stigma, to educate them and make them aware of the critical importance of pap smears. And that we also, another intervention is that we need to do more STI screenings, but it is so complex and that not many people are coming in or coming through for screening and treatment and counseling and support. Family support is very important, but we also recognize that, families are not prepared to even embrace an issue as sensitive as this. But we need to put in place strategies to allow families to come together and speak about these issues. Open channels of communication was very important, because in that way, support, the ethic of care, nurturing and understanding of what's going on actually helps to draw on our inner strength. It's issues of being courageous, resourceful, and pulling off our resiliency in the space of this complex issue. And then lastly, another intervention strategy that I picked up on is that we need to have, massive education and awareness programs and ways in which we teach young people on pre and post condom usage. So, those are great take-home messages and aligns itself very clear with the issue of knowing your inner strength. But as one of the speakers did mention, be in control, be in your power, claim your space, regular exercises, positive affirmations, eating healthy food, drinking lots of water, and your breathing exercises, at least for a start, can actually help to take you a very long way in this journey. But I think for all of us present here, it's been a learning curve, and like I'm so happy, or I'm grateful to know that some form of education and training took place today to expand our notion or expand our ways in which we think about the issues that are being discussed today, and how we can use it in the spaces in our workplace. I just want to go back to Stella and Tenjiwe, just to ask you all if there's anything else and any other important message that you would like to mention, to us today.
Thank you. I think for me, the closing comment is, when we teach about sex, we need to be inclusive. Sex is not just a heterosexual process, and it's not just virginal sex. We have a lot of teaching that excludes a whole section of people. We have to include everybody. Also, positive teaching on sex. We teach about the consequences of it that are negative. We're not teaching about the positive. So when the young people experience pleasure, everything we have said is out the window because we just lied to them. We need to balance this and say it will be pleasurable. It will be pleasurable because of these reasons, but there are consequences, which means you can do X, Y, Z, wear a condom, get contraceptives, because that pleasure, once you know it, you know it. But here are the negatives. Let's balance the message that we give to young people so that they know that dual protection is what they need to make sure happens. But also, I agree with Tenjiwe. It's about building a social asset out of this young person. And that social asset is a sexually active sometimes person who may start early. But then if they do start early, that we can't just throw that baby with the water out. We have to make sure that, okay, you've started. This is how you make sure then you recover whatever's been lost, if anything's been lost. But also make sure that just because you are sexually active doesn't make you a negative person. And the young people who are at varsity, because for you to get to varsity, you have abstained, most of you have refused to have a boyfriend early, so you are seen to have made all the right decisions. And then you get to 21 and your body says something and you're like, oh, what is this thing asking me for? Because I'm supposed to be a good girl. And it's also the time when guys are looking at how beautiful you are, saying all the right things you haven't heard before. And you are in turmoil, trying to make sense of him saying the nice things and kissing, feeling nice, and all the negative things I've heard about relationships. Let's not let our kids get to 21 confused. Let's start when they're adolescents and make sure they get to 21 experiencing what they've heard of before, not new things. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella, for that. I've just gone to our question and answer section, and I note here there's just a comment, and that like the belief that going for counseling and therapy is very helpful, because in this way you are helped to make informed decisions. And it has a ripple effect in that it helps you to work on your emotional self and your emotional health. Going for counseling, even after finding out that you are HIV positive, can also help build coping skills and find some neutral and non-judgmental support. This is a very nice comment. It's very positive, and I must add that, you know, I do agree with that. The power of counseling and therapy, and the way you are supported into making informed decisions and how you communicate this issue forward. And thank you so much for that. Stella and Tenjiwe, do you have anything to say on the issue of the supportive nature of counseling and therapy and its positive impact on making informed decisions?
I was allowing Tenjiwe to go ahead, but just one line. The work that we do, the work that Cindy does, is rooted on supporting a person to make decisions, supporting a person to access services, and the space that we feel in is making sense of why I'm feeling this, why is this happening to me, why must I use that? So I am a true believer on, we don't go in life alone. We need people to be with us. And if those people are not going to be our families or our parents or our siblings, then it has to be someone that is interested in me as a community person. And that's where the community workers fill that space. So it is very important to find your support, your connective network. And sometimes it doesn't come from your family. It comes from a professional or the paraprofessionals that are in our communities?
Yes, I agree. It's very important to ensure that we surround ourselves with support structures so that we are able to interact positively and also grow optimally in our spaces, because we are social beings. So we will need to have someone who's professional, who's not going to stigmatize, who's not going to judge you, look at what you're saying and then conclude or so we need counsel. We need to access the such services or such structures, even if it's not professional counseling, just to engage with like-minded people who are going to assist in building each other, who are going to share ideas, bounce ideas, frustrations with. We need those in our lives in order to grow, in order to learn from each other, because that is about that. It's about learning from each other. It's about supporting each other. It's about also knowing who you are so that you are able to ensure that you associate with like-minded people who are going to assist you to face whatever obstacle or hindrance or barrier in your life. So those are very, very important, that you get such structures or such support in your life. And also it will assist you to be in control of your life, be in control of who you are, and also be consistent with all the good things that you are applying in your own life.
Thank you, Chenjiwe, for that. I liked your last few words, about your own resources that you are applying in your life, because there is no one model that can fit all. I think each one of us, we're coming to this point, if each one of us takes the time off to actually think about our inner strength, we will all come to the realization that we use certain resources, our personal resources, in times of need. And when we do that, it is actually a notion of the fact that we do know our inner strength, that when adverse conditions come by us, we will pull out our inner resources or the positive resources or the strength and the courage that helps us to get back on track and get moving with life. So, all in all, it is true that we need to know our inner strength. Chenjiwe, whilst you're on the line, maybe you just want to tell us where you're located, and if we need to contact you, how can we contact you?
Thanks, Doctor. Our offices, I'm from Drum 8. Maybe some of you have heard of the organization. It has worked profusely with institutions of higher learning in the peer education program, but we've escalated to communities around eThekwini because that's where our offices is, but we are able to go outside of eThekwini if financial resources are available. Our offices are at Howard College in the drama department spaces. Some of you will know where those are. It's the huts that are down there in the bushes. That's where we are. It's hut 8. Howard College, Drum 8. And our landline is 412 or 1564. But I'm always on the road. As I've said, that I work with the institutions of higher learning. So my number, I'm not sure whether to put it out here, but it's Neziwe has got all my contact details. Thank you.
Thank you, Chenjiwe, for that. Before I do a very brief recap, once again, because I've done that previously, but very briefly, we will recap and we'll end the program, and that we are so sorry that Tabile has a problem. We're so sorry. And, you know, I know for sure, and I'm so confident in saying that her presentation would have been equally as robust as the other two presentations. Perhaps even if we, you know, want to know more about peer-to-peer mentorship, you know, we could contact Tabile just for more ideas on what she's doing and how our university is negotiating this beautiful, strong, healthy project, as in peer-to-peer mentorship and the positive effects or the way it's intervening to support the lives of all our students at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Stella, before, as I said, I do the brief roundup, maybe you just want to tell us where you are located, and then I will round off and, you know, to close the session, the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy is a network of NGOs. We are located in Pietermaritzburg on 55 Jabundlovu Street, but we have partners that implement our programs in eThekwini, Mgungundlovu, and Herigwala, and we've got members all over KZN, and members being the NGOs that make up Cindy. We have a website. It's www.cindy.org.org, Cindy, C-I-N-D-I. So you can find us there, but you can also find me on Program Director, in one word, program with double M-E, Program Director at cindy.org.za. Otherwise, Nigezwe has got all my contact details. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Stella. I think we just have about 3 minutes left. And I must say thank you to our presenters and everybody who made this possible, staff, students, and Pamela Adams' department as well. You know, it's actually been a very informative session. I'm sure we're going to go out of here with a rich understanding of the issue of knowing our inner self. And today we actually discussed, or we made visible, or we exposed very powerful resolutions and ways in which we can set ourselves free. Also, the issue of how we needed to create a balance between our minds and our bodies, and open channels of communication, the importance of families and communities to come together to help with keeping the momentum of resilience, courage, and strengths that are ongoing. Also, the issue of pap smears and why is it so problematic that there's such a low number of pap smears that are being done, and the stigma associated with a pap smear, levels of discrimination, non-judgmental attitudes. We certainly, as practitioners and as people in our community, we have a lot of work to do. And perhaps that's one of the areas that we need to delve more into, to demystify the issue of going for a pap smear. Decision-making was very important, you know, informed decision-making, how we need to build ourselves up so that we can plan and stay informed and make decisions that's going to enhance our capabilities and our well-beings, and create spaces for us as human beings to flourish and thrive and do the best that we could. As I brought up earlier, you know, the issue of agency or choice, you know, that people are given options to choose the different kinds of contraceptive methods that they want, or that's good for their bodies. And I think, you know, in our education and awareness program, possibly, or I'm sure it's already being done, that, you know, if we can be very vociferous about the fact that you have a choice on the type of contraception, and you can choose what is good for your body. With that in mind, I once again want to take this opportunity to thank our presenters and all those who attended this rich program. And, it is hoped that when we go back, we're going to go back and make meaningful contributions, even if it's just one. Because when you put all those contributions together, it really makes numerous positive contributions. Thank you all so much. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Rosh. Thank you, Musa, Tabila, if she's still on.
Thanks, Pamela. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye, Pamela. I think it went well.
It did, Rosh. It went very well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.